Muhammad Ali was shadow boxing in a small, dimly lit gym on the east side of Oakland. The rhythmic sound of his feet shuffling across the canvas echoed through the room. Left, right, left, pivot. His signature dance that had mesmerized the world. 20 young fighters lined the walls, watching in silence. This wasn't just training. This was church. And Ali was the preacher. But standing in the corner, arms crossed, eyes narrowed in concentration, was a man most of the boxers didn't recognize. He was 5 feet 7 inches, maybe 135 pounds soaking wet. Black hair, intense gaze. He wore simple training gear, and he hadn't said a word for the past 15 minutes. He just watched. Ali threw a jab. Then another, his famous 1-2 combination that had dropped Sonny Liston, Cleveland Williams, and a dozen other giants. Fast, precise, beautiful. And then the small man in the corner spoke. "You're doing it wrong." The entire gym went silent. You could hear a pin drop. 20 pairs of eyes turned to the stranger. Ali stopped mid-jab, his fist frozen in the air. He turned slowly, a smile creeping across his face, half amused, half curious. "Excuse me?" Ali said, his voice echoing in the quiet. The man stepped forward into the light. "Your jab. It's fast. Maybe the fastest I've ever seen, but it could be faster." One of the young boxers whispered to his friend, "Who the hell is this guy?" Ali tilted his head, studying the stranger. "And who are you to tell Muhammad Ali how to throw a punch?" The man extended his hand. "Bruce Lee." Here's the part the history books won't tell you. Ali had heard the name before. A martial artist from Hong Kong making waves in Hollywood. He'd seen some footage, those crazy kicks, the lightning-fast strikes. But this was boxing, Ali's domain, the sweet science. And now this kung fu guy was critiquing the heavyweight champion of the world. But Ali didn't get angry. He got curious. "All right, little brother," Ali said, bouncing on his toes. "Show me what you got." Bruce Lee stepped onto the canvas. He didn't assume a boxing stance. He stood sideways, 1 foot forward, hands open and relaxed. It looked wrong, vulnerable. The young boxers exchanged confused glances. "Throw your jab again," Bruce said calmly. "But this time, I want you to feel where the power comes from." Ali obliged. He threw his jab. Snap, snap, snap. 3 rapid punches that cut through the air like bullets. "Good," Bruce said. "Now tell me, where does that power originate?" Ali shrugged. "My shoulder, my arm. That's how you punch." Bruce shook his head. "That's how you punch with your arm. But you're Muhammad Ali. You don't punch with your arm. You punch with your entire body. You already know this. I can see it in your footwork. But your upper body hasn't caught up to your lower body." Ali's smile faded. He was listening now. Bruce continued. "Watch." He threw a punch, not a boxing jab, but a straight lead from his Wing Chun training. It didn't look powerful. It looked effortless. But when his fist snapped forward, the air cracked like a whip. You see? No wind-up, no telegraph. The power comes from the ground, through my hips, through my core, and explodes at the end. Economy of motion, minimum effort, maximum result. Ali threw another jab, but this time he tried to mimic what Bruce had just shown him. It felt different, tighter, more connected. "There," Bruce said, nodding. "You felt that?" Ali's eyes widened. Yeah, I did." "Wait, the story doesn't end there." "Now you show me something," Bruce said, stepping back. "Your footwork, that shuffle. I've studied it for months on film, but I need to understand it in person. How do you move so fast for a man your size?" Ali grinned. Now they were speaking his language. "All right, little brother, step into my classroom." For the next 2 hours, the two legends worked together. Ali taught Bruce the mechanics of his shuffle, how to stay light on the balls of your feet, how to pivot without losing balance, how to create angles that made you impossible to hit. Bruce absorbed it like a sponge, adapting it immediately into his own footwork. In return, Bruce taught Ali about centerline theory, how to protect your core while attacking your opponents, how to intercept an attack before it even begins, how to use minimal movement to create maximum disruption. The young boxers watched in stunned silence. They were witnessing something unprecedented. Two masters from completely different worlds teaching each other. No ego, no competition, just pure mutual respect and a shared hunger to improve. At one point, Ali called one of the young fighters over. "Marcus, come here. I want you to see something." The kid nervously approached. Ali put him in front of Bruce. "Throw a punch at him. Any punch." Marcus hesitated, then threw a slow, cautious jab. Before the punch was even halfway extended, Bruce's hand intercepted it, not blocking it, but redirecting it with minimal contact. "See that?" Ali said to Marcus. "He didn't wait for your punch to arrive. He met it halfway. That's what Bruce calls interception. I call it anticipation. Same thing, different language." Bruce nodded. "In Jeet Kune Do, we say, the best defense is to attack the attack. Don't wait for the threat to come to you. Go to it first." Ali snapped his fingers. "That's exactly what I do in the ring. I don't wait for them to set up their power punches. I disrupt their rhythm before they can get started." "Precisely," Bruce said. "You're already doing it instinctively. But when you understand the principle behind it, you can apply it everywhere." But here's what no one in that gym understood until years later. This wasn't about who would win. This was about something far more profound. Ali and Bruce weren't just exchanging techniques, they were exchanging philosophies. Ali's mantra was, "Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee." Bruce's was, "Be like water." Different words, same meaning. Both men had rebelled against the systems they were born into. Ali had refused to conform to what white America wanted from a black athlete, quiet, humble, grateful. Bruce had refused to conform to what Hollywood wanted from an Asian actor, subservient, one-dimensional, the sidekick. Both had paid the price. Ali had been stripped of his title for refusing the draft. Bruce had been denied leading roles because executives said America wasn't ready for an Asian hero. And yet, here they were. Two men who had been told they were too much, too loud, too proud, too different, learning from each other in a small gym in Oakland. As the session wound down, Ali and Bruce sat on the edge of the ring, towels around their necks, catching their breath. "You know what the problem is with most fighters?" Bruce said, staring at the ceiling. "They think fighting is about strength, about power, about who can hit harder." Ali nodded. "And that's why they lose. Fighting is about intelligence, about timing, about making your opponent fight your fight, not theirs." "Exactly," Bruce said. "It's like water. Water doesn't fight. It adapts. It flows around obstacles, but it's also the most powerful force on Earth. It carves through mountains given enough time." Ali smiled. "Float like a butterfly." "Be like water," Bruce replied. They looked at each other and laughed, a deep, genuine laugh that filled the gym. Then Ali leaned back, his expression growing more serious. "You know what they don't tell you about being on top?" he said quietly. They don't tell you how lonely it gets. Everybody wants a piece of you. Everybody has an opinion, but nobody really understands the pressure. Bruce nodded slowly. In Hong Kong, they said I was too American. In America, they say I'm too Chinese. I'm not Chinese enough for China, not American enough for America. So where do I belong? Right here, Ali said, putting his hand on Bruce's shoulder. With people who understand, with people who refuse to be put in a box. Here's the moment that changed everything. As Bruce was packing his bag to leave, one of the young boxers, Marcus, the same kid from earlier, worked up the courage to approach them. "Mr. Ali, Mr. Lee," he said nervously. I don't understand. You're both the best in the world at what you do. Why are you still learning? Why are you still trying to get better?" Ali and Bruce exchanged a glance. Then Ali put his hand on the kid's shoulder. "Son, the moment you think you know everything is the moment you stop growing. I don't care if you're the heavyweight champion or a white belt. There's always something to learn. Always someone who can teach you. Pride is the enemy of progress." Bruce nodded. "In martial arts, we have a saying, empty your cup. If your cup is already full, there's no room for new water. You have to stay humble, stay curious, stay hungry." Marcus looked between the two legends, his eyes wide. "So even when you're at the top—" "Especially when you're at the top," Ali interrupted. "That's when it's most important, because everyone's trying to knock you down. And if you stop learning, if you stop growing, they will." Bruce stood up, slinging his bag over his shoulder. "The people who stay on top aren't the strongest or the fastest. They're the ones who adapt, who evolve, who refuse to become comfortable." He extended his hand to Ali. "Thank you, my friend. Today, you made me better." Ali shook his hand firmly. "Right back at you, little brother. Next time you're in town, we do this again." "Count on it," Bruce said with a smile. Before leaving, Bruce turned back to the group of young fighters. "Remember this day," he said. "Remember that greatness recognizes greatness, and true greatness always seeks to lift others up, not tear them down. What happened in the months and years that followed is part of the reason both men became immortal. Ali would go on to use the principles Bruce taught him, economy of motion, centerline theory, interception, in his legendary fights against Joe Frazier and George Foreman. Watch footage of the Rumble in the Jungle closely. You'll see it. The way Ali leans back on the ropes isn't just defense, it's interception. He's making Foreman commit to attacks that drain his energy while Ali conserves his own. Be like water. Bruce would incorporate Ali's footwork and angle creation into his martial arts system, Jeet Kune Do, the way of the intercepting fist. He studied Ali's fights religiously, breaking down the footwork frame by frame, teaching it to his students. In his personal notes, Bruce wrote, "Ali doesn't just fight with his fists. He fights with geometry." But the real legacy of that day in Oakland wasn't the techniques they exchanged. It was the lesson they both lived. True masters never stop being students. In 1973, when Bruce Lee died suddenly at the age of 32, Muhammad Ali was devastated. He gave a rare interview where he said, "Bruce wasn't just a martial artist. He was a philosopher, a teacher, a brother. He taught me that the body is just a vehicle. The real fight is in the mind. He taught me that speed without purpose is just movement, but speed with intention? That's art." And in 1996, when Ali lit the Olympic torch in Atlanta, his hands trembling from Parkinson's disease, Many people saw it as a tragic image, the world's fastest man reduced to slow motion. But those who understood the deeper lesson saw something else. They saw a man who had spent his entire life adapting, evolving, refusing to be defined by limitations. They saw water, still flowing, still carving its path through the mountain. Float like a butterfly, be like water, different words, same truth. That day in Oakland, two legends proved that greatness isn't about being the best. It's about being willing to learn from anyone, anywhere, at any time. It's about checking your ego at the door and embracing the eternal truth that every person you meet knows something you don't. The young boxers who witnessed that training session would go on to tell the story for decades. Some became champions. Some became teachers. But all of them carried the same lesson. The moment you think you've learned everything is the moment you've learned nothing. Marcus, the young fighter who asked the question, would later open his own gym in Oakland. Above the door he hung a sign with two quotes, "Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee." Muhammad Ali, "Be like water, my friend." Bruce Lee, different men, different arts, same spirit. And that spirit lives on in every fighter who steps into a gym with an open mind, an empty cup, and a willingness to learn. It lives on in every person who achieves success, but remains humble enough to be taught. It lives on in the understanding that wisdom doesn't come from dominance. It comes from dialogue. Because legends aren't born, they're forged. One humble lesson at a time. And on that spring day in Oakland, in a small gym that no longer exists, two legends forged something eternal. Proof that the greatest victories aren't won in combat, they're won in connection.